Hi, International Master Levy Rozman. International Master David Pruess.
David, it's a pleasure. I know you usually do the show with Isaac, but I'm pumped. It's been an interesting year, and we're entering the final regular season matchup, and then it's playoff time. So it's a good week to be doing the show.
Yeah, it is. It is crunch time here for some teams, and all the final week matches will be played in one massive Monday in just 2 days. So everybody who wants to see that action, which is probably all of you, that'll be coming up in not too long. Not even 48 hours before the final pawns will start flying.
Well, I guess I mean we should probably start out with the usual, right? So talking about which teams in the league are the best, which feature some of the strongest players. Yeah, so beautiful landing page, and then it has the league leaders.
Mm-hmm.
You know who has not moved from the top
ever?
Yeah, like I think Grishuk has just been at the top. But if you, it's an exhaustive list. We got like 10 players.
Mm-hmm.
More than half of it has been populated by an Eagle or an Archbishop the entire season.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point, and that means that the top two spots on our
some sort of superstar season, like was he going to have a 2800, 2900 performance? He's been 13 out of 20, but it always helps when you've got a former World Blitz champion as well as Wesley So kind of as your backups. For me, it maybe not so surprising necessarily, but just in awe I am of how dominant Grishuk has been, undefeated over 24 games, 2800 performance. It's his first time being a Pro Chess League player. And he's just been an unstoppable force for the Bras on board one. Obviously, there's this new rule of 28 games to become a local player.
Mm-hmm.
And they have taken full advantage of that over the course of the regular season.
Yeah.
So he has been unbelievable. What do you make of like the Armenia superstars, though? I mean, players with 2,600 ELOs, but performing at 2,800 level, Shant, Haik. Is that just an experience thing, or is there just, I don't know, is there something in the bottled water of Armenia that's just makes them unstoppable online rapid players?
I think that they really are that good, and we've seen it from several of them in past seasons, and now we're seeing it from all three of them at once. But Zavin 2 years ago had a season kind of like this, and Haik last year had a season like this, and Shant last season had a season like this, right. And now all three of them are doing it at once. So, yeah, I think that it's just possibly Armenia's year to take the whole thing again, and it's a mix of their skills and their experience. I think maybe to some extent they are getting a little bit better with time. Like,
right.
Like there's something about the players that is better than their elo. In addition to that, I think they are a little bit better than they were last year or the year before because they've logged, just so many PCL games like no other players have.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, like I mentioned about Grishuk, why I was so impressed, because he doesn't necessarily have experience in this kind of online, 4 kind of matchups, 10-2 format. I mean, 10-2 is not something that they play in any tournament over the board.
Right.
I'm glad that you and I have overlap in every single team for our power rankings. I was curious. I was going to ask you a question. Why are you so generous to the New York Marshals? I'm a New Yorker.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, to me, it's pretty clear that the Bras are a top 3 team. I'm very curious how you have them 5th.
Uh-huh. Well, I guess this week will partly show it when these two teams face each other. We'll sort of see a little bit which of us is right or wrong on that. But my power rankings rely heavily on number crunching. And my number crunching shows that the Marshals are really good.
Well,
It also
thank
shows
you, David.
it also shows the Bears to be really good. So that's why the Chess Bras, despite being an amazing team, which at one point I mistakenly ranked first at one point this season, I think they're actually currently like edged out by the Marshals and Bears. That said, my power ranking doesn't take into account right now how good they would be in the playoffs with Grishuk counting as a local player and Anish Giri replacing either Saric or Eric Hansen. Once they can make that presumable upgrade, not to sell anybody, not to sell the Chess Bras short who have played the whole season, but Giri is a pretty high class player. If they make that substitution in the playoffs, that might push them up to the top 3 for me. But right now, if you just look at the performance ratings over, and not just over like 4 games or 8 games, which can be flukes, but if you look at the performance ratings for 20 games from some of the players on the Marshals and the Bears, those players are actually stronger in the PCL format, in my opinion, by a little bit.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I was somebody in chat mentioned Gemini. Well, Gemini's actually a country. It was just incorporated into the
EU.
Yeah. You guys just probably haven't heard about it with all the global news, but yeah, that's not a typo. That's a real place. I actually so a little bit of insider information about the New York Marshals. So just like in NBA basketball, right? We I suppose NBA basketball is a weird way of saying that word because they're
like
B in NBA
ATM machine.
Yeah. So in the National Basketball Association, the New York Knicks are made fun of because, like, in the past offseason, there was a lot of news about them potentially signing big free agents.
Right.
And the same thing happened to the New York Marshals. So for those of you that don't know, Ferrugia actually was slated to play for the New York Marshals. As well, we were courting Anton Korobov, but it turned out that Korobov had signed with Gemini. And it's really paying off. I mean, 14 and a half out of 16. The guy's like a rapid killer. 2870 performance. The big surprise for me is obviously Eric Brown, 17 out of 24, 2730. But yeah, this 1-2 dynamic punch that you could have for a team is just, I mean, it's a huge bump. I will say this about New York and about Hikaru in particular. And we have I think a beautiful graphic somewhere. Of,
I've got Hikaru. I can bring him up in a second for you. There you go.
I'm surprised. I just don't know what exactly is going on because Hikaru, according to the numbers, has the 5th highest performance of anybody on the New York Marshals. And like when you look at that, like that, just to me, I'm just confused because the guy's a top 5 player in rapid and blitz, right? And he's also silver medalist and he's a dominant force in Title Tuesday. I mean, Speed Chess Championship, you name it. So that matchup with California was a moment to make a statement. This upcoming matchup with Canada is a moment to make a statement. How important is it that Hikaru is crushing it for board 1 for New York, do you think? Because I feel like without it, there's no chance.
I mean, it's partly that everyone else on New York has played so well. The fact that he's like got the 5th performance rating, because a performance rating of 2736 wouldn't be 5th on a lot of other teams, right?
Fair, yeah.
So I mean, that's partly why I have the Marshals high, which you were wondering about, and it's partly why Hikaru seems a little bit low. That said, you could expect a performance rating of 2780 or more for Hikaru. I think that the Marshals have been good enough that they could compete in maybe the first round or so of the playoffs without the real Hikaru. But I agree that at some point they might want to play their top 4 and not play Hikaru if he can't show up like against the Chess Bras this week or something like that. Like if you lose to the Chess Bras with this lineup, with Hikaru in it, and he doesn't perform great, then you really need to wonder to yourself if the next time you play that same team in the playoffs, you might want to change your lineup. Yeah.
I agree. It almost feels strange, right? To even be having such a such a hypothetical conversation, but like this is the drama queen in me, right? So last week, right? It's a matchup like New York, California. I mean, you're obviously California based. I mean, the social media manager of the New York Marshals Twitter. If you guys don't follow them on Twitter, go check them out. It's not me, so it's not a self plug. Even though even David thought it was me.
I thought it was you. I was like, this guy's so clever and witty. It's got to be Levy. And a couple times, you like talked between your account, like Gotham Chess and New York Marshals, and I was like, he's having fun talking to himself. He's really funny, but
no, it's not me. I've tweeted a few times on the New York Marshals account, but that account's a lot of fun. We've gone from like 180 followers to like 280, which obviously, I mean, in the social media world is it's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, that's big.
But it's just like trying to create a little bit of buzz. And we had Hikaru for the California and now the Canada matchups. And for those of you that don't know, the intriguing thing about those two matchups is that there's a little bit of bad blood there between like, Hikaru and Daniel Naroditsky. They've played hundreds of times, right? And Hikaru's the board 1. He's playing the board 4. Daniel is the anchor, the board 4 of the unicorns, if you will. Yeah. And I don't know, like the drama queen in me, just I want a little bit more. It's like a statement matchup, but no one really. I don't know. Chess is kind of weird like that. You just go to play, and that first game between Hikaru and Daniel was just a little lackluster. It was like a Rui Lopez Berlin, and I don't know, kind of. So now this first round matchup between Canada and New York is going to be Hikaru versus Eric Hansen, which is it's far more bad blood there than Hikaru versus Daniel.
Right. So if they play like a boring draw, you're going to be really, really tired of them not living up to the hype.
Yeah, like make a statement. It's like, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's what Grishuk did when he got paired against Fabiano a couple weeks ago, and people were like, well, St. Louis is like winning this match. Is either of them going to try and like make a statement before the candidates, or are they just going to play, like a classy draw on board 1 at the end of like a match where like, St. Louis was leading by at least 4 points at that point. I think they were up by maybe more than 4 points in the last round, and the Chess Bros had a good last round or something. And Grishuk beat him down, right? Like he did go and he did make a statement. He said he was ready for the candidates. He tried to, and that's what I would want to do, is like get in my opponent's mind before the candidates. Like last time you saw me, I was beating you.
Yeah, I feel like Grishuk has this permanent aura of just intensity, confidence, and just I don't know, just doesn't have a lot of hesitation. Like when I think of Grishuk, I just think, businessman. Like he's just gonna show up to the board, or in this case, the screen, and he's just gonna get it done. I could say the same for a handful of players, like a Wesley So. At this point, a Karabov, he's kind of inspired that confidence in me. I still look at certain super GMs in the league, and it's not so clear what you're gonna get on a week-to-week basis. Chess always has this thing like, well, what why would you dictate like what kind of style they should implement? But I think it's kind of self-explanatory. Like if it's round 1 and it's 1 versus 4 and you're clearly the better player, all statistics point in your favor, you should be playing for a win. But there is, of course, this element of risk, right? Like if you push too hard or get too risky, then bad things can happen. So, well,
So anything else to say about these power rankings before we start hitting each other with questions? We each moved the Russia Wizards up quite a bit compared to where they've been all season after they trotted out a 3,2700 lineup. Somehow Tomaszewski didn't make it, but Nepo and Andreikin showed up and scored 7 points between the two of them, which makes it pretty easy for the rest of your team to finish the match.
Right.
And they beat an Indian team, which is considered to be a strong team in the Eastern Division. So Nepo looked super, super comfortable, kind of like laughing, yucking it up as he was like beating Mamedyarov with black without any effort in the 4th round. His performance rating is now the highest of anybody in the league, albeit in only 2 matches. He's at 29.30. Um, and that made the Wizards look good. But then this week they come in with like a confused lineup, right? Where like all their 2700s are missing again, and you're like, well, what are we going to get from them lineup wise? Do you feel like, having seen the lineups for Monday, that we ranked Russia too high, or do you believe they'll bring Nepo when it comes to the playoffs?
It's really difficult to say. You know, when it's an arbitrary like top 10 kind of situation that you have to rank, right? I think you just assume the best. You assume like at full capacity,
Mm-hmm.
what would the power rankings look like?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I assume that with that full firepower that they are like a easily. I mean, first of all, with full firepower, but also the current season results,
Yeah.
you rank them where you rank them. But obviously, if they trotted out a Tomaszewski and Nepomniachtchi kind of lineup, well, then I mean, they could give a Hikaru Fitasev like some trouble, right? I mean, Jan
Yep.
Nepomniachtchi is a top 5 player in the world,
Yeah.
so
He's looked
let's not.
really good in his matches so far.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, for those of you that don't know, pairings are currently out on the Pro Chess League site, so we're not looking at any sort of, information that you're not privy to. But the Russia Wizards are not fielding anybody above 2600 elo for this coming week.
Yeah.
So, they might have the best international master on planet Earth right now on their team, which is Mikhail Demidov, arguably. But there's that's up for debate.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't rank them as a sixth for this week.
Yeah.
They're a playoff lock basically, but
Yeah.
it all depends on how things play out. Israel's a bit surprising,
Me personally, I will dock a team a little bit in my power rankings if I feel like they're not consistently bringing out their top lineups. It's like, that is my first basis for evaluating a team, is like, what's their ceiling, what's their potential, who are their best guys this year. But if their manager consistently puts out inconsistent lineups, then at some point I'm like, well, I can't like expect you to like win your matches. Like last week, the Yogis brought out a match with like a new player, Murali Karthikeyan, played one match for them for no reason. It put them at 10 2600 players, so it meant that this week that like Vidit couldn't play, which I think they like wanted Vidit to play one match so that he was available in the playoffs, right? And then oops, you've hit like the limit. It just didn't make sense. They had an important matchup against Russia, and the lineup they put out last week just was nowhere near their best. So to me, you could say, how strong is India if they play Mohammad Yarov, Hari Krishna, Adiban, and like Vidit, but although he's not even available now, right? But let's say Indian lad, right? Narayanan, who's like actually their best player, despite not being the highest rated FIDE. If they put out that lineup, then, people could argue they're a top 5 team. But I see them like continually playing lineups that are not what I would put in, and so I dropped them a couple spots. And I don't think over the course of the season that they've played that much better than, the Unicorns or a couple other teams.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Unicorns are also just in a brutal division, and they don't have a super GM as a top board. That's really their only problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they have Shanklin, but I mean, if we're talking about like this format, rapid play in general, you put like a superstar. I mean, it's like any sport, team sport. You put a superstar on a team, they're gonna be top 2 in the division. Obviously, the entire Western Division has to fight against the capitalist regime, which is the St. Louis Archbishops. But that's a question that we can have during our firing questions away at each other segment. What we think about the rating cap and everything. Chad is already getting into it. David,
let's go to questions where we're going to take turns just firing questions at each other, and I'm going to go off script because you just made me think of a question, and I'm going to ask you, what's the best team in the entire Pro Chess League right now that does not have a 2700 on its roster?
Wow. Okay, I feel like this is trivia. I don't even think it's opinionated. Are we talking 2700
FIDE?
FIDE in any format?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be Armenia, right? I mean, Armenia doesn't have a 2700 elo player. They have a lot of high 2600s, but I was just
Hmm.
saying I don't know their FIDE Blitz or FIDE Rapid. Like maybe
Okay.
some of them have
Maybe some of
but
them have rapid or yeah. But for normal FIDE ratings, their highest rated player is Meksudlu. So that's under, and
yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
like 2680
90,
to
yeah.
90 right now. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
close. I mean, Armenia, yeah, that's an easy one. I mean, maybe the better question is like who's a second place team that doesn't have, and probably it would be California
Yeah.
because all of their players, and if you guys look at the pairings on the Pro Chess League site, it's all done according to the classical. So that's why some of the average ratings are a little bit skewed, whereas like Fedoseev and Hikaru have boosts in their FIDE Rapid ratings, but their classical is slightly lower because Fedoseev and Hikaru dipped a little bit in the last year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, my question for you then,
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna maybe structure this a little bit by division, but we
Sure.
can bounce around division to division.
Yeah.
Who is? I feel like every question has to have an exception of the Archbishops and the Eagles because they're just
Who is
so
the
dominant.
best not Archbishop or Eagle?
Yeah. Who for you is the biggest shock, both positively and negatively, as a team this season?
As a full team.
Full team.
I would say the team that's the biggest shock, and it's not like my jaw completely hit the floor, but like they definitely outperformed the most my expectations for them, are the G-Mini Bears.
Okay, G-Mini Bears.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect them to be like a bad team or something like that, but I mean, you saw I ranked them third in the league right now, ahead of the Marshalls and Chess Bras. And kind of going into the season, I thought that basically, other than the Eagles, the top three teams in the league would all be like Western teams. And I think G-Mini can compete with all those guys. So that's my biggest, the team that outperformed what I expected. Worst performing team or like most shocking disappointment out of any team for me.
It's an easy one, I think. I don't know.
I mean, I'm thinking for a second between the Mosquitoes and the Hussars and the Pandas, and
It's got to be China, I think, but I don't know. I don't want to answer. I mean, Netherlands Mosquitoes.
Well, no,
you can
disagree with me once I answer. I'll make final choice the Hussars. I thought that they had a chance of being first in their division, and now they're not going to make the playoffs unless Monday goes really well for them. So that's my answer. Now you can tell me I'm wrong.
No, I mean, I think that's a pretty fair one. I was gonna say it's really difficult to criticize a team that's making the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna make the playoffs. Like, I think statistically speaking, somewhere it was listed that for the final week of the season, China has to lose. They're in fourth place in the Eastern Division right now. And if Hungary wins, they have to defeat they need to score like 9 more points than China, basically, which is, I mean, it's just statistically very, very unlikely. Yeah. So China's going to make the playoffs, and then we'll see who they get matched up against. But again, at full strength, like the argument that I was always making for the rating cap situation was the fact that China could trot out an Olympic level team.
Indeed.
And they would be ridiculously strong.
Ridiculous.
And they might even, I mean, they would be the favorite over the Archbishops. I would potentially argue if they trotted out a Ding Liren, Wei Yi, Wang Hao.
And Yu Yang Yi.
Yeah. And I just...
It would be close. It would be close. They'd be the other super team, basically.
Exactly. The Archbishops are more experienced team, obviously, in this format. And just online play in general, I think... I'm so surprised when some of these grandmasters come out and say, like, yeah, I don't play online a lot, which I don't know. I guess in some ways it makes sense, and in other ways it's like, what? Really? Yeah. Okay. you got it, I guess.
Yeah. It's surprising.
All right. Hit me hit me with something.
All right. Do you ever root for the team that's playing against the New York Marshalls? And,
wow.
Generally, if you ever want to turn this back on me, the question is like, let's say you're completely invested in one team. Do you ever root against yourself, basically?
Man, this is a deep question. Well, I will say this. And I'm going to be completely honest right now.
Good. We didn't bring you in here to lie to people.
Right. And you know, with me, it's always pretty straight up. Well, last week New York was playing California, and I was rooting for the Marshals. Like I would love to see the Marshals in a Final Four. It would be amazing to go to the Pro Chess League finals and support the squad. But I was rooting for Daniel Naroditsky in particular because he's a good friend of mine. Okay. So I wished him, I wished him the best before the match. I said, like, crush it. There's some history with Hikaru. Hope you have a good game there. And he had a really good position, but they ended up drawing that game.
Yeah.
And he did very well last week. So I don't know if there would ever be a situation I root against my team unless they like outwardly like disrespect me or sabotage me in some capacity.
I could never see the Marshals Twitter accounts dissing you.
Yeah,
never.
But it would obviously be a situation like if we somehow had a player that I'm not a grandmaster, so I don't really have a lot of there's no bad blood or rivalries that I necessarily have with other grandmasters or some of these like strong players. But if I did, probably that's the only case that I would root against my own team.
Right.
I'm lacking some critical thinking skills. When would you ever root against your team? If it helped you statistically and
I like your answer. That's a good answer, that you could want your team to win, but you want one player on the other team who you really like to do well anyway. That's an exception that really makes sense to me. My answer is one time this season, I was kind of almost rooting against my team. We were playing against the Krakens, and I think the match was even after 3 rounds, and we outrated them by like 100 points per board or something like that. And I can't explain why sometimes I like the favorite and sometimes I like the underdog. I'm not always on one side or the other, but somehow my heart was just like going out to this like 100% local team of like Argentinians who are like fighting against a team 100 points higher than them. And I felt like dirty, like, oh, I went out and like, hired like 2 Russian, like, prodigies, Sarana and Oparin to like beat them down for us. And, it just like, I guess I slightly root more for the like 100% local teams than for the teams with free agents.
Right.
And then they were the underdog or something, and I was so impressed that they like kept even with my team up to that point. And I was like, it would probably be a good thing if these Argentinians won. That would be like an exciting upset for them.
That's fair. Yeah. No, that's absolutely fair. I'm a big fan of like underdog teams in general. When I was doing, as well as like local teams. When we were doing coverage of like a France matchup, it was Alexandre Botes and me, and we interviewed Kevin Bordy, Blitzstream, who does commentary on the France games, and he was like, we don't want any foreigners on our team, we want like a full French team. And I was like, well, here in the States we also don't want foreigners, but for mildly different reasons. So yeah, chat had a lot of fun, and then like all the French people in chat were like spamming different French memes, and it was a lot of fun. So it's good to see France like dominating.
They were all on board. They were all on the board with the all local team. They weren't like, no, Bordy, get us one free agent to help us win.
Yeah, like they don't need a superstar, Yeah. They all consider themselves superstars, and even like that day they were having some weird matchups, and this season did not have a successful quest against Germany. I remember there was an interview with Eric Braun, right? And he just like started laughing, I think.
Yeah.
And they said France was the team to beat.
It was after the match was over, I think, that the interviewer said like, hey, France said they're too good for your division. What do you think? But they've already like won the match, right? So like the German player was just laughed. He never even got an answer out.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I mean, just in general, like if you could feel that, I also found it completely crazy that Kevin Bordy said that everybody plays for free.
Yeah.
And like for those of you not familiar, before the Pro Chess League, there was like a U.S. Chess League, right? And that's one of the reasons why there even are multiple teams from the United States. And everyone's like, well, the United States and favoritism. I mean, the whole concept of this came about. Shout out to Greg Shahade.
Yeah.
Shout out to the U.S. Chess League. So
Yeah.
that was like the original model, and then this takes it worldwide. So obviously we're still figuring out the best logistics and the best kind of structure for the league to work. But long term, I see this league, and that kind of flows into the question I'm about to ask you, which is how much thought have you put into how big the Pro Chess League could get as an esports league? If you've put any thought at all. I've put a lot of thought, so it's kind of a baiting question. I apologize. But
so it's like a setup question where I'll be like, I don't know, and you'll be like, let me tell you some numbers, David.
no numbers, just an eye test. But
how big it could be. I mean, I have thought about that somewhat. Yeah. I do wonder about that, but I don't know that I can give you a very precise answer how big it could be. I mean, it could certainly be more interesting than a lot of traditional chess tournaments that people follow, so it could have like a bigger following than those. I mean, it could have all the top players in the world, which it basically does right now other than Magnus. How much kind of like viewership could it have? I don't know, maybe like 100,000 instead of 10,000.
I think so.
Maybe
can we sell out like 200,000, not 200 people?
No.
Yeah, that would be
no, thousands. Can we sell out a stadium? Yeah, we could.
That's
for the Final Four.
That's my goal. Yeah.
I think so.
Speaking of Final Four, we got we have a graphic somewhere, right? So Chad, if you're in Europe or in the United States, are you going to be coming to Chess Party 2020? It's I don't know if we have like a thing we could play there, but I think it was just announced like last week that the live finals this year are not going to be in San Francisco. So David, you must be a bit bummed about that.
No, I'm not bummed out about it. Just like me rooting for the Argentinians a little bit, like I'm like happy for someone else to have it. It doesn't have to always be us.
Fair.
So I'm totally cool with that.
I think it's gonna be great. The ad was an awesome ad. I was a little sad I was left off of it because they were like, it's gonna be a lot of like chess personalities, right. Magnus, Fabiano, and then like famous streamers. I was kind of left out of the famous streamer part of it. But
are you invited to come or no?
I was not. Well, I'm not on the image, but no one's actually invited. I suppose I'm invited as much as the general public.
As the general public is invited. They won't. As far as you won't fly to Norway and then be like stopped at the door. Like, sorry, not famous enough.
Yeah. That. Well, yeah. I'm sure if I asked to sign some stuff for people, that might be overbearing, and I would be booted.
They're like, how do we put this to you kindly?
Listen,
don't
if
need
these
you to sign their mouse.
You know what, David? I have a question for you. Here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 6, who is the least famous?
Who's the least famous of these 6 people? It can't be Magnus.
No. Yeah. Imagine that. My question is, if you surveyed people around the world,
right?
Do people know Wesley So more than they know Eric Hansen? Right. I don't think so. I think actually people know Eric Hansen more than they know Wesley So. I don't know.
Yeah, that would probably be a close call. I mean, honestly, I don't follow stats closely enough to know which of these 3 streamers has like the most followers or the most popular stream or whatever between the 3 of them. The Chess Bros have the whole team, which brings extra excitement as well. Yeah. They've got Amon's Chicken Dance. I don't know. I don't know who's the least famous of all these people, but it'd be sad if it weren't. It would be sad if it were like Wesley, because he is the more accomplished chess player.
Yeah, it's true, right? Like it's. I'm happy that Magnus is coming because it is Norway. So when you think Norway, you definitely think that Magnus will be there. But we know that with various restrictions that we don't get Magnus in the Pro Chess League, which hopefully changes in the future. I mean, we gotta have Magnus in the. Come on, start a bidding war and then get him on like the New York Marshals. Is this tampering? Am I tampering?
And
right
get
now?
him on the New York Marshals. Why does the bidding war have to end with you winning?
Well.
All right. So it's my turn for a question, right?
It is your turn for a question. Yes. I mean, the only thing that I will say is, as far as like, an esports league, I'm really, really excited to see where this goes. I'm happy with the fact that yes, for a season we have to put up with the St. Louis Archbishops being dominant, as well as Armenia. Though I mean, Armenia Eagles, we just saw them in the chat. I would make a pay-per-view to get a 10-match, event between St. Louis and Armenia.
Yeah.
And if it was chess boxing, we all know that Armenia would win. So maybe we can add that, to the discussion.
Add that to the end, like the 11th match is boxing.
Yeah. I don't know if Armenia Eagles are still in the chat, but I would put up, that would be a good pay-per-view event.
Hopefully, because my next question is about them. But
okay. Hit me.
Hit you? All right.
Yeah.
Hit you. So I'm gonna pull up some player cards maybe here, to help with this. And my question to you is, who should the Armenia Eagles play along with their 3 Armenians? Which of their 3 free agents should they use as their 4th player when they get to the playoffs?
Who should? Well, I think that's kind of an easy question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I gotta go with Parham, right? I mean, it's a good choice. I mean, my options are limited, right? I've got Parham, I've got Chigayev, and who is their 3rd free? Is it Raunik?
It's Raunik, yeah.
Well, then it's Parham for sure.
Here's Chigayev, everybody. I got a picture of him looking pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, he is looking pretty cool. Man, is that a Monster Energy like hoodie?
Yeah.
The guy that he's playing? That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Armenia is ascending to a level of, national sponsorship. I mean, if you go to their Pro Chess League page, they're partnered with a bank, Chessify. There's a lot of global chess products right now. They've won every match that they've played, and I mean, with the exception of 2 matches against 2 of arguably the best teams in their division, they have not won by any closer than 11-5, right? like they are, I mean, 11-5, 11-5, 13-3, 11.5, 4.5. I mean, they are the team. They really are the team to beat. Of course, when you're playing against a ridiculous team like St. Louis, there is always that question. But look, I have strong hopes for this for this league. And I mean, if it's going to be an international affair, sponsorship, why can't the France Roosters get an Evian sponsorship? And everybody gets bankrolled, and it just
it would be nice. It would be nice for them. That would be a nice bonus for all the players who are playing just for their country to also get some water and maybe some money with it. I'll say that if Parham doesn't do well this week, I might go with Chigayev, because he's played a couple matches with good success, and Parham hasn't really been tested that much this season. Chigayev's performing over 2,700, and if every single player on your team's performing over 2,700, then your team's kind of unbeatable. So I'd be pretty confident. Putting in Chigayev, unless Parham has a good week.
That's fair. I mean, I gotta go with my man. I don't know why, why that just happens to be such a vow of confidence on my behalf. But
yeah,
I mean, they really are a strong team, at least on paper. And I mean, Parham is obviously not just on paper; he's got the performances to back it up.
Yeah. You see the Eagles plan in chat, right? They say that they think that they're really, really underdogs against St. Louis, but they're hoping to not play them till the finals, and then have that 1 or 2 out of 10 matches that they think they would win be in the finals.
I respect that. Humility is good.
Yeah.
There's always two approaches. You can be humble and you can, say it like how you truly think. And then you can also lie and say that
Right.
St. Louis is overrated and they're a bought team and all these things. And so I respect that. But yeah, I mean, if we get Armenia versus St. Louis in the finals, it doesn't matter where the location is, San Francisco, Norway, it will be exciting. Last year we saw Baden-Baden, which is now basically Germany. If they get into the finals, that will be exciting. Which leads me to my next question, David.
Yeah.
Who's the final four?
Who's the final four? Ooh. I did pairings for the whole playoffs. I got you.
Oh man.
Pairings for the whole playoffs. All right. So it will be not just my picks. This is what it'll be. It'll be the Archbishops, the Bears, the Eagles, and the Chess Bras.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair four. Especially because if the Chess Bras play Grishuk in the playoffs every week, then well, I mean, and they played him every regular season week, everybody. So Grishuk will become a local player. So they theoretically could field Grishuk, Giri, Firuja, Saric, right? Because Saric has also become a local player with the 28-game rule.
Yep. Now, they could actually play 0 Canadian players and win the title for Canada.
In fact, I was going to take it a step further and say they could play 4 people that might have never been to Canada in their lives for Canada. I mean, just think. Amazing. I mean, I'm sure that they have been to Canada. They're in their 20s. Right. I don't think Firuja's ever been to Canada.
He's young. Yeah.
He's a young guy, but theoretically speaking, there's 4 guys that might have never been in Canada for longer than a week.
Yeah.
At any point in their lives playing for Canada, which, I don't know how people feel about that. But
maybe another question later in the show, how people feel about that.
Yeah, chat's going to get up in arms. But
that's my final 4, and it doesn't sound too bad to you.
No, it doesn't sound too bad. It's really for me the question, and actually I saw I guess Eric Hansen, I'm not sure who's the person on the Chessbra account in Twitch chat, said that there could be issues with Grishuk playing in the playoffs because he wants to take preparation for the candidates seriously.
Yeah. Logical.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
They haven't had a matchup yet without Grishuk. They've had matchups, so they've had matchups without some of their other 2700s. But
and some people thought one of the reasons that he played every single match was specifically so he could get that local status, so that they could, really leverage him in the playoffs. So if they do all of that and then he's not available in the playoffs, actually that would hurt their team like so bad, because not only would they lose him, but they would lose using him as a local.
No, absolutely. That would be a tremendous loss. I mean, you're naive if you think that Grishuk wants to play 4 online 10+2 matchups every week. I mean, first of all, it depends how much you're getting paid. If you're Grishuk, I don't know how currency translates to where he's currently living, but staying up that late for some random 10-2 games might not be the most interesting thing for him.
Well, they're not always random. I mean, this week I think he'll have fun playing against the Marshals. I think there are three or four teams in the West that are strong enough that it's fun or interesting for him to play. But I would think that it might be not so interesting for him to play against like the bottom 2 or 3 teams. I'm guessing there, but
fair.
All right, ball's in your court. No, ball's in my
4?
court, right? You asked me the final 4, unless you.
I did ask you the final 4. Yeah, I was gonna. I'm gonna be a home team fan for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna change that the Marshals are gonna make the final 4.
Okay.
Ahead, instead of the Bras.
Could
you have a final 4 all from the same division?
You could.
Wow. Amazing. So if everybody beats, because for those of you that don't know, the playoff format is available in the rules section of the Pro Chess League site. They intermix all the divisions. Before, it used to be you play within your own division. And there you go. So that
I'm helping out chat with one possible version of the bracket, but that's just guessing results from this week, many of which are 50-50, so I don't know. But that's like one sort of set of matches that it could kind of look like. Um, so, you could even theoretically have 4 teams from the U.S. in the Final Four. In some cases,
you could,
not just
yes,
from the Western Division, but
yeah, that is true. If
don't see
Chicago,
it, but
Chicago, qualifies as the 13th team and then beats everybody, man, it's
Yeah.
crazy that Chicago's the 13th qualifying team and they've got like 4 2600s available at any moment.
Yeah. I mean,
all
they've
right.
basically never played a lineup below 2650 like for the whole season, pretty much.
Yeah,
They're
wild.
They're amazing, but yeah. Okay. My question to you is that in chat, as we were saying, the Eagles were saying they think that they could win 2 out of 10 matches against the Archbishops. Do you think that the Archbishops can win 8 out of 10 against the Eagles, or do you think it's closer than that?
Well, if we're talking about full capacity and basically the lineups that they've been fielding, no, I think 8 out of 10 is a lot. But I mean, if you're talking about Fabiano, Wesley So, Lenny Dominguez, and Lequang Liam, for example,
Yeah.
More fair question might be what is going to be the average score line of those matches.
Okay.
I want to give Armenia credit for at least 6 points, but even that is just, you look at the lineup that St. Louis fields, and you also look at the fact that they've got a 27-44 performance rating.
Yeah.
Right. But that's with Fabiano scoring 13 out of 20. And there has to be an element. And I feel like this is not talked about enough. Fabiano's preparing not for the candidates, but he's preparing for a rematch with Magnus, right? Because he won the candidates. He's looking at the candidates. He's looking at the World Championship matchup with Magnus potentially at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And chess is the kind of thing where you need to hide some of your weapons, right? Like, it's not like a boxing or a tennis. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 different ways to hit a ball. In chess, there's all sorts of branches of variations that you're working on that you can't showcase in a 10-2 online format. So you don't care about your openings. You don't care about certain things like that. And for that reason, you just play, you just kind of have fun. But you can't overpower people with just skill, because there's always there's this concept of getting into certain positions where you have certain experience or don't. So that's kind of why they have a 27-44 performance, in my opinion. If Fabiano was firing in all cylinders, I don't see why their team performance rating can't be closer to 2,800.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can only do so much better. Like, if we add 1 point per match for him over what he's scored, then he'd be at like 18 out of 20. But you can't you can't really do better than that. So
yeah, I mean, Fabi's not going to score. You'd have to put him in the range of like a Grishuk or like how well Wesley is scoring. But
well, I'm going to come out for the Eagles actually here, and I'm going to say that basically, according to regular season stats, first of all, it's like a dead heat. It would be like 8.1 versus 7.9 would be like the expectancy for the St. Louis team. But the problem is that Fabiano performs like 200 points better in the Final Four than he does during the regular season. And that was the case last year as well, right? Like in the regular season, like almost once per match, he's like dropping a game against anybody. It doesn't even have to be against, Grishuk or Firouzja or somebody. Like, it could be almost anybody. He'll like lose a game. And in the Final Four, he's like 4-0. And it looks like impossible to play against him. So I think we can add like a full point to Fabiano's expected score per match in the playoffs compared to in the regular season. If you do that, that still, to me, only makes them favorites to score like 9-7. I think that's sort of like the mathematical expectation. And so I think that the Eagles could be expected to score, 3 to 4 wins out of 10 against St. Louis if they played 10 matches.
Well, that's a vow. I also want to give that vow of confidence to Armenia. I feel like I want to see them in the finals, and I want to see them do well. I want to see the Eagles take flight.
Yeah.
Man, I was just about to suggest something, And I've been actually working on this all season, but it's kind of gotten delayed a little bit. So maybe at the start of the next season. Would you support Pro Chess League jerseys? You know, because like Overwatch League, for example, like I'm a big fan of Overwatch. Overwatch League jerseys have some sick designs.
Yeah.
And I would love, and I mean, I know we have like kind of our basic logos, and then in the Final Four, the players get like a jersey design.
Yes.
But I want like an even better design. I want like a name on the back, like a number, a sponsor on the jersey, kind of a thing. So I've been trying to make that happen for the Marshals. Maybe we'll have that for the next season.
Yeah, that would be sick. I mean, you could get it this season if you guys make it to the Final Four. Otherwise, you'll have to work on it for next season. Also, important comment from Artok in the chat. He's saying, look, one or two of those matches are going to be ties as opposed to like wins necessarily, right? But he thinks that in those Blitz tiebreakers, they would win. And that is how they did win the Pro Chess League against the Pandas a couple years ago, was in the Blitz tiebreak. And Fabiano is not known as much for being like a Blitz player. So I agree that there's like a little bit more room to beat him in the Blitz tiebreak than in the Rapid match.
Fair.
I think that's a good point. I mean, the Eagles are doing really well. We have to assume their manager knows a little bit what he's talking about too. So
absolutely.
I think what he's saying seems pretty darn accurate, actually.
Oh yeah, and in the Twitch chat, Max bringing up a good point. At last year's Pro Chess League Live Finals, there was a T-shirt gun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that has to happen again. We have to have a T-shirt gun.
Like if I'm flying to Norway, you're shooting a jersey gun for me, so I can get the jersey of my favorite team. Yeah.
I mean,
they're promising it.
Of course, that's good, and the jerseys are going to be sick.
Yeah.
So
I should get an Eagles jersey because I'm kind of a fan. And then when I do commentary, I could wear the jersey and get booed off for being biased or something.
Well, you could also wear various jerseys on top of each other.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever seen that in like the standings. I mean the stands of various like basketball events. You have like a front running fan that just like takes the jersey off when his team is losing. And but. Man, and then like we got to get like chants, you know, like France could bring in like a party bus. That's a question for you. That's actually an easy one if we just think about it for a second. But which team is most likely to bring in a bus of rabid fans that will like write letters on their chest and cheer? And I don't know, actually.
I mean, let's not count Norway because the thing is in Norway. So it's unfair that they're just logistically closer. But if we just think the whole rest of the world, I'm going to go with the Germany Bears.
Okay.
I think they could get enough beers into their fans that their fans show up with like bears drawn on their chests. Yeah.
I'd love it. Or bear masks.
Or masks.
Yeah. I was
going to show up as furries.
Oh, yeah. Pro Chess League 2020, baby. You love to see it.
Yeah.
I feel like Armenia. I mean, hey, I've seen Zaven partying on the broadcast before. You know, he doesn't even wait till show is over and Zoom call is done. He he gets it. Yeah, that would be fun. I was gonna say the Bras, like, because you know they've had like live streaming of parties and chess stuff. But actually, Germany and some of these Europe teams, don't underestimate them. You know, Sweden has live watch parties. There's no reason they can't bring a party bus and rent one, from the Oslo airport and then drive it to the stadium or something.
Right. They could even go over land, unlike most teams.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. My question for you now: do you prefer the no rating cap league this season versus the rating cap version of the league that we had in previous seasons?
Oh, I've answered this question. Just over the course of the season, like on my own stream, but I'm very adamant. I'm very optimistic. I think no rating is great. No rating cap is great.
What? You're crazy.
No, I think it's great.
You're liking this.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think the biggest thing, I like some of the restrictions. Okay. Like the 520-700s and whatnot. And I could be proven wrong. I'm open to interpretation. I could be proven wrong.
Right.
But for me, like I look at various esports leagues, right? And people are really good at certain elements of the team matchup, the
Mm-hmm.
team format, and sponsorship opportunities for international teams. Buying players. Those are all components of team sports anywhere, right? Like
Right.
some teams have bigger market share. Some cities are bigger, so they're landing spots for big free agents. They have bigger bankroll. So I'm confident. I like it. It might need a little bit of tweaking, and I'm not paid any sort of wage at all to think about how to make it better. So that's I'm gonna let the people who are paid to do that and organize do it. But I'm excited. I like it.
Okay. So like a couple weeks ago, there was just like a horror for me, which was the New York Marshals scoring 14 and a half points.
Right.
Okay. I did not enjoy that. That was, ugh. You? You had fun the whole time? Even in the fourth round, you're still like, yeah, let's beat them down.
No, of course. Well, I was really surprised that it was like 13 wins in a row. That obviously was really surprising for me. But at the same time, those matchups were very close. Like New York could have lost half those games. You
Okay.
know,
So
I
you
feel
were
like that.
so it was still interesting to watch.
Well, not once the score is decided. No.
Okay. Okay. So
Um,
that's my problem. That's my overarching problem right now with the no rating caps is
okay.
the number of matches that have been like, and that's an obscene one, right? But we've had a lot of matches that were like 13-3 or 12-4.
Right.
And I just think that's not good. I think having like two matches out of four in a division in a given week be like 12-4, it's just the league has to do something to make a little bit of parity, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm just a capitalist pig, I guess. So and no, but you make a fair point, right? Like, and honestly, I don't have the statistics in front of me, so I can't talk about how many more competitive matchups there were this year compared to the last year.
Mm-hmm.
But no rating cap and no relegation for like some of the lower teams that don't perform well. People want consistency. Like if a sponsor is going to sponsor a team and bankroll one of its top two players or something like that,
Yeah.
or just its entire roster, jerseys, whatever, this allows the top players to play more consistently. Teams don't get shifted in and out of the league. It allows teams to make like a more significant investment in better players if they had a down season. Jersey sales, like that's, Overwatch League jerseys are like $80. If we even do half of that, people are going to want to support their favorite players. I don't know.
So
It's
you're
yet
telling
to be
me
determined.
you're telling me design a logo and I may have money flying in.
Listen, we have a New York Marshals jersey with like a corporate, chessable sponsorship on the sleeve, Pro Chess League logo, like right above the above. Okay, I'm
Right.
below. I'm not good with my geometry. I mean, listen, it's a huge boost because like in the United States, for example, some of the leagues that like professional leagues, not online leagues, but professional like sporting leagues, they have enormous revenue from ads, from jersey sales. The New
Mm-hmm.
York market for scholastic chess is probably the biggest in the States. I mean, it's enormous. Like if you look at the United States, just the United States, the national championships, the percentage of players that come from New York, I don't know, 30%, 40%.
Mm-hmm.
That's an enormous
Yeah.
market for jersey sales, supporting your favorite grandmasters. So I think there's opportunity there. And I've been pushing this
Okay.
narrative, and I'm not a paid sponsor. No one's bankrolling me to say any of this stuff. So,
Sure.
you know,
No, I mean,
so,
nor me saying that, the matches to me, some of them are less exciting this season. Obviously, I, shouldn't say that if, chess.com were telling me what to say or something. But but we each have our own opinion and it's good. It's good when we have different ones.
That's
Yeah.
fair. But we got to get more aggressive, like Stephen A. Smith style. Like you're wrong, and here's why.
Okay.
I gotta get like my catchphrases down. So
and here's why. Yeah.
And here's why. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna fully disagree with you, but I am gonna say, some little. I got one final question before we go.
Yeah.
If you could put Magnus Carlsen
On any PCL team, it would be the Unicorns.
No.
Oh,
On
no.
any PCL team that's not making the playoffs this year, which of those teams would become a first seed?
A first seed. Just add Magnus.
If the answer is none, it can be none, but at full capacity.
And it's a non-playoff team, right?
Yeah, has to be a non-playoff team.
Can I take the Hussars and have them start playing Duda? Like do
you
I get to
could-
manage this team?
you could do that. Yeah.
If I get to do that, then I'm gonna go with the Hussars. I'm gonna tell Duda and Wojtaszek they have to play because Magnus said so. I'll be like, you know how Magnus feels about not winning. Do not do that. Do not do that to us. You guys got to get in there. Then you give me Magnus, Duda, Wojtaszek, and whoever. We don't even need to play a fourth board. We'll be like the top team.
Wait, you could. Those are two locals, so you could field another free agent.
Wait, I'm allowed to hire more free agents for them too. This is too easy.
Poland. Yeah, because Poland got a sponsorship from state television. They're going to show the games on state television. So,
yeah.
There you go.
I got Poland and I'm winning. I don't even need to hire another free agent. As I said, we could just put the fourth board blank. The fourth board would just be like a picture of us like sticking our tongue out at your team. Just like, we got Magnus. What?
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm definitely in agreement with you that Poland had a chance. I was pretty excited about Poland. I mean, we have the best Polish player of all time on the New York Marshals, and that's Wojciech Miranda.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Duda's a close second. Wojtaszek is a third. Yeah, Wojciech Miranda. I mean, Wojciech, he's king of trash talk, king of memes.
Yeah, Jacek Tomczak is a little bit better than him in the Pro Chess League, but I guess he's the best at some measure.
He's a team spirit kind of guy. He averages about 2 to 3 memes a week in our team email. So
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
High percentage. So any thoughts before we go? What are you most excited about in week 7 in the playoffs? Maybe.
Yeah, I guess the biggest final question. To leave people with a burning question for Monday so they feel like they just got to tune in. The biggest question, I think, is who's going to win between New York and Canada. Because I ran some numbers, and just to tell you the stakes of this, well, you probably know them, but not all the viewers maybe do. The Marshals are currently in 3rd place in the Western Division, but I think that's the least likely place for them to end up. They're likely to either finish in 2nd or 4th place. Most likely, right? Depending on if they win the match, then they pass the Chess Bras, right? If they lose the match, then there's a very good chance they drop below California. So they're in 3rd place, but they're probably going to finish 2nd or 4th. Who's going to win that match?
Well, my brain tells me it's going to be Canada. My heart tells me it's going to be Canada. I can't pick. Well, we need a big week from Hikaru. We need 3 points. And just looking at this, what that means is he's got to make draws against Giri and Grishuk, and he's got to beat Saric and Hansen, and he's got to beat Saric and Hansen. He's going to have to win some games with Black there, right? Because Hikaru has Black, I think, in the first matchup against Hansen in the very, very first matchup. So we need a 3 out of 4. I mean, we need Fedoseev to get back to winning shape. He won like 12 or 13 games in a row. If we could, like last week, the top 2 boards for the Marshals scored 2.5 out of 8. That is abysmal. And that's not a knock on chess players are very sensitive, right? Like they get very insulted, but 2.5 out of 8 is crazy, especially when you outrate the other players. So this week, we're not going to be outrating the other players. It's going to be Grishuk and Giri. Those guys are studs. They're like top 10 in the world. You need at least a 50% score, and then you got to leave it up to players like Gadir, who's incredibly strong in Blitz and Rapid, and Iturizaga, who's underrated in Classical. I mean, he's got 2597 listed here on the pairings website, but another very strong Rapid and Blitz player. So if I've got to call the Marshals winning, it's going to be really close. But if the Bras win, it's going to be like 9-7 or worse. Okay. So, yeah, I think that the Marshals win a close one, 8.5, 7.5, or the Bras just Grisha goes, 3.5 out of 4, some ridiculous score, and I could see that happening, by the way. I could see Grishuk beating everybody but drawing Hikaru, or beating everybody and drawing Fedosseev. He's so good.
Yeah.
So
it's true. It's possible. He is so good. He had a plus score against St. Louis a couple weeks back. Scored 2.5 against St. Louis, I think.
Right.
I think it's possible, actually, that the Marshals win as long as Hikaru doesn't tank. I don't need him to score 3 out of 4. I actually need him to score 2 out of 4 and not go crazy. But I think it's very possible for them to win this match with a bunch of 2s and 1 2.5. I don't think that this season, Naka is better than Guseynov or Turazaga necessarily, and I don't think that Guseynov or Turazaga are necessarily any weaker than the Chess Bros team. I don't see why they couldn't score 2.5 each against that team. I'm not saying that they will, but they definitely could. I don't think their expectancy is much below 2. I think it's about 2. And so I think that, if all the Marshals players are, I would say the expectancy for Turazaga, Guseynov, and Nakamura should be about 2, and for Fedosseev about 2.5. And that's kind of about how I see them winning the match, but I don't know which of them would get 2.5.
Right. Okay. That's fair. Well, I guess on that note, David, we should just remind everybody. Well, first of all, thank everybody for joining us for this week's weekly recap. Weekly wrap. I don't know why I said recap. It's just such a natural word.
The wrap
weekly
recap.
Wrap, yeah. But remember that this is the only week of the season where we're not going to have games spread out over 3 days. So you guys need to put a little note on your calendar that the only thing you're doing on Monday, February 17th, is watching the Pro Chess League. You're doing nothing else. So 6 a.m. Pacific time, we have the entire Eastern Division. 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, we have the entire Central Division. 11 a.m. Pacific time, we've got the entire Western Division. We could call it Manic Monday, maybe, where the entire fate of the regular season gets decided. So shout out to Aaron, who will be producing the entire show over the course of about 9 hours. He's a gangster. Marathon Monday, I like Manic Monday more, and I have nothing else to say. I'm going to enjoy my weekend, David, and then I'm going to be back on Monday, sitting in front of my computer, totally watching the show the entire time. And I'm going to be talking a lot of trash. So,
yeah. Other things to look forward to real quick on Monday. I mean, that match is the biggest for me, but real quick, Dingley Ren is making his Pro Chess League debut on Monday. So that's something that a lot of people may want to see. We've got a matchup between the number 1 and number 2 teams in the Eastern Division, the Eagles and the Yogis. And then in the Central Division, we don't even yet know who's going to be in the playoffs, right? So the Gladiators are going to be trying to get an upset against France. That should be an intense match. They've got Sabino Brunello playing for the first time. So there's a million things to look forward to, and I can't wait for it.
I'm pumped, David. And all of you should be as well. Tune in on Monday, twitch.tv/chess, well, basically where you are now. And I believe, David, that we're going to be sending the viewers over to the Chess.com events channel because they're doing the 4-player championship. Yeah. Which I have not partaken in 4-player chess. I'm still sticking to 2. But
yeah. So stick around for 4-player chess, and we'll see you Monday to watch the Pro Chess League final week together.
Yep. Take care, everybody.